Good evening, gentlemen. It's good to see you here this afternoon. And we've got some reviewing to do and some ground to cover. So let me ask first of all for a prayer request. Anyone have a special request upon your heart for someone? Yes.
The Gray family, his name just skipped my mind. Brother that sits right back here, he called me and said he wouldn't be able to be here. He was with a family at his church that lost a family member. It's the Gray family.
Okay.
So he asked that we pray for him.
All right. Thank you, brother.
My business partner, Robbie Bailey, his mom passed away this past weekend unexpectedly. So
Pray for that family. Yes, sir. Anybody else? Well, let's pray for one another. Pray for the class and the college. I thank you for your dedication and your commitment to continue on. We'll pray, and then I'll talk to you about this little box up here on the board, and we'll do some review. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for these students that come each Monday night, and Lord, give their time and Lord, seek to understand and to grow and to learn the language in which the New Testament was written. Now, Lord, we know that anything worth having is worth working for. We know, God, that without you, however, we can do nothing. That's what you told us. And I believe that, Lord. Nothing of eternal value. And so we commit ourselves to you tonight. I pray for the request Brother Jody made concerning Brother Gray, and I pray for Brother Mike's request, asking you to remember both of them. And I pray now the Spirit of God might teach us and help us. We claim that promise, Lord Jesus, that you made, that when he is come, he will lead you and guide you into all truth. We know the truth is your precious word. So help us tonight. We'll praise you and thank you in Christ's name. Amen. Amen. Well, let me talk to you for just a few moments. And I do this with all of my Greek classes. When we come to almost the 8th week, and especially the midterm, it's time for me to put the brakes on and just talk to you out of my heart for a minute. First of all, I want you to know that I am interested in each one of you individually. I'm interested in your ministry, and I'm interested in your life here with us at the college, and I am set to do anything that I possibly can to help you. Let me review just a few things that I do so that you may take advantage of some of them. First of all, I do review a lot, and that's important in any type of teaching that you do. There must be review. Now, I need you to remember that we have, in our class here, we have all sorts of people represented, all sorts of educational levels, all sorts of backgrounds. So that means that I have to put out a certain amount of information. And some will get it quicker than others. But because we are a ministry and not a secular college, we will come back and review, and hopefully then the one or two who is having some difficulty, and some will have difficulty in one area, some will have difficulty in another, will be able to catch up. That's the first thing. I review. The second thing is, Brother Jody and I decided way back several months ago that we would offer this course in the summertime and offer no other courses with it, because we knew the commitment that it takes in order to get this thing, to learn basic Greek. It takes some dedication, it takes some work, some memorization. It's not easy, but that's what I'm for. I'm here as your personal tutor to help you. So we've designed this so that all of your attention will be focused upon this particular course. Now, we're well aware that you have lives. You have things things going on in your life that demand, that pull, that want your time. And so with that in mind, being a ministry and not a secular college, because in secular college, most of you have been to a secular college, the teacher puts out the material and he don't give a flip if you get it or not. It's get it or not get it. Well, that's not who we are. We are a ministry. We're a college, but we're a ministry here to try to help. So my challenge to you is listen in class. If you have questions, keep them until break if you can, and then I'll deal with them. If you can't, just lift your hand and we'll talk about it right then. But I've got so much material to get out, and you understand that, of course. But review at home, go over these things when you have opportunity. When I'm riding in my car, wherever I'm going, I'm listening to the Greek language. And although I've studied all these years, I still listen and try to review and listen to the language. And they'll be speaking rapidly and using words that are not in, of course, our text or even in probably the Greek New Testament. But every opportunity you have, go over this material. Review it in your mind until you're familiar with it, till it becomes just part of you and it's automatic. Get the video, watch the video. If you have opportunity, plug into that, and you can go over that as many times as you want to, and that'll help you. Write down the things where you're weak. Bring them to class with you. Tell me about them. Now, anytime we have an exam that's going to count towards your grade, for example, coming up is midterm. Next week, all we're going to do is review. We're going to review and review and review. We're going to be reviewing the things that's going to be on your exam. Does that make sense? So that if you're listening, or if you'll plug into the video, you'll know pretty much what's going to be on the exam. More than that, not only will we review the exam and the question that's going to be on the exam, but if you find, and I don't think you will, but if you find that you're still not getting it, or that you don't make the grade that you want to get, or perhaps you don't make a passing grade, what I'll do is come to you and say, here's where you are. Here's some extra work for you to do to pull your grade up, so that you're not going to fail in my class if you'll make an effort. I'll get in the trench with you, and I'll assign you extra work if need be to help pull that grade up to pass it. So I'll do anything I can. Remember, we are a state chartered school, and so there is a level of professionalism and a level of education that we have to maintain. But I'll do everything within my power that I can to help you. Don't be ashamed to ask. In all probability, the brother or sister sitting next to you is having the same problems. This is something that after a while you'll learn it, but it takes work and takes discipline. And so I just wanted you to know that I'm going to do all I can to help you. We'll be reviewing next week for the midterm. In the final analysis, guys, it depends upon you. It depends upon you. How bad do you want it? And what are you willing to do to learn it? All right. We're going to study cases this afternoon. And so if you have a pen and a piece of paper, you might want to jot down some things that I'm going to give you concerning cases. Now, the advanced study of cases and prepositions comes in Greek too. Second time you take Greek. But I'm going to introduce you to the cases because we've already covered basically cases and endings, case endings, and you may have had questions about them. So, Mr. Machen, one of the finest Greek authors that I know of, our textbook, says that there are 5 cases. Can somebody name those cases? Nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, locative. All right, those 5. Actually, brethren, there are 8 cases in the Indo-Germanic language. So you'll want to write that down. Maybe on your midterm, I'll ask you, how many cases are there in the Greek language? Your response will be 8. Even though we only have 5 with Mr. Metzger, there's actually 8 cases. In the primitive Indo-European tongue, Mr. Joseph Wright, if you continue to study Greek, you'll run across Joseph Wright of Oxford, a very learned scholar, points out that there are at least 8 cases in the Indo-Germanic language. There are 2 important reasons we believe that there are 8 cases in the Greek language. Number 1, the investigation of the Sanskrit. The investigation of the Sanskrit, which exhibits 8 cases, is one reason why we believe that the Greek has 8 cases. Because in the investigation, in the study of the Sanskrit, we find that the Greek is very similar to the Sanskrit, which has 8 cases. What is the Sanskrit, somebody may ask? The Sanskrit is an ancient Indo-European language of India. So you might just write the language of India, in which the Hindu scriptures were written, and the Indian epic poems were written. So it's a language, Indo-European language of India, in which the Hindu scriptures were written, and the epic Indian poems were written. When comparing the Greek cases with the Sanskrit, it was found that the same general distinctives were in it. The second important thing that tells us that there are 8 cases is the method of comparative philology. The sound method of comparative philology has brought the family of Greek and the Greek grammars to recognize that there are indeed 8 cases in Greek instead of 5. From these studies, we have learned that case, this is important. From these studies, we've learned that case is a matter of function rather than form. Now remember, I've taught you to look for the inflectional endings. For example, the nominative case might have this ending. That would tell you it's in the nominative case. Or it might have Omicron iota, which is plural. This would be singular, Omicron sigma. This would be plural, Omicron iota. This tells you that that's the subject. So therefore, it's in the nominative case. The function of the subject is the nominative case. So I'm just showing you, I've taught you to look for the endings. But as we go along, you'll learn that case is determined not by form, but by function. And let me explain. Not by form, but by function. The case of the Greek noun is to be determined by its relation to the rest of the sentence. The Greek noun, the case of the Greek noun, is to be determined what case it is by its relation to the rest of the sentence. As we attempt to analyze the cases of the Greek language, we must seek to discover the functions which it performed in the structure of a sentence. Note, the function of the subject. This function we call the nominative case. So if I ask you what's the function of the subject, it is the nominative case. Secondly, a noun is sometimes used without specific grammatical relations, simply as the object of address, which function we call the vocative case. So you're going to write the object of address equals vocative. The vocative is concerned with the object of address. One noun, number 3, one noun may be used to define the character or relations of another, which function we call the genitive case. If I'm going too fast, just let me know. One noun may be used to define the character or relations of another noun, which function we call the genitive case. So, the genitive case is the case of definition.
One noun be used.
To define the character or relations of another noun. So, the genitive case is the case of definition. If I were writing it down, I'd write genitive equals definition. All right, number 4, a noun may be used to denote the point of departure in a thought of removal or derivation, which function we call the ablative case. So the ablative case denotes the point of departure. Ablative case, point of departure. That's 4 cases. Number 5, a noun may be used to indicate an object of interest or reference, which function we call the dative case. So the dative case indicates an object of interest. I simply wrote out, when I was studying it, interest. Dative case, interest. Number 6, a noun may be used to indicate the position of an object or action, which function we call the locative case. Locative, L-O-C-A-T-I-V-E. So it's the position of an object or action. We call that the locative case. That function is the locative case. Number 7, sometimes the noun denotes the means, M-E-A-N-S, the means described in the expression of thought. Such case we call the instrumental. It denotes the means described in an expression of thought. So instrumental case equals means, M-E-A-N-S, means. And then lastly, the 8th case, a noun may be used in some way to limit an assertion, which function we call the accusative case. So the accusative case is a case of limitation. It limits an accusation. Now, I want you to look up here on the board with me for a second. These 8 cases that I just gave you define the root idea of a word. The root idea. Look at this, please. If I can get these pens to write. The root idea. In Greek, there are 3 things you want to learn about the definition of a word. 1, you want to learn the root idea. What did the word mean? What's the basic meaning of that word? We call it the root because that's where a plant starts, a tree starts. That's where it begins, the root idea. Okay. Secondly, there is the resultant. The resultant meaning, you're going to find this true in prepositions. For example, the preposition apo, basically, its root means from, but it can also mean since. Let me just rattle off some things for you. Είμαστε εδώ από χθες. We've been here since yesterday. Από χθες. Από there, which usually means from, in that case means since. Χθες is yesterday. So I'm just telling you, a preposition with a different case can mean different things. So there is a resultant meaning. This will be used most, the root meaning. But in some cases, you'll find a resultant meaning. But then finally,
So kind of like a secondary meaning.
yes, sir. And then finally, there's a remote meaning. Meaning you just find this word used ever so often, maybe once or twice in the New Testament itself. A remote meaning. So there's a root meaning, a resultant meaning, and a remote meaning. Now, can you see the complications that presents in trying to translate a word? Here's the root idea of the word, but it don't fit in this context. See, remember, the contextual principle of interpretation. A word means what it means in the context in which it's used. Don't ever forget that. A word means what it means in the context in which it's used. So, we've got a box up here to talk about concerning cases. You know, of course, that the endings on a word normally does reflect what case that word's in. But I don't want you to get hung up there, because we just got through saying that case is a matter of function rather than form. However, I had to start you out somewhere. I had to start you out teaching you that the subject could be in the middle of the sentence. Didn't we? And we saw that. So to look for that subject, you had to look for the nominative ending, which is os or e. All right. Miss Lou, can you see this back there?
Yes.
May be difficult for you. Okay. In this box, we got 3 boxes on top. On the first box, I put inflectional forms. Inflectional forms, we'll talk about that in a minute. Secondly, the case. And thirdly, the root idea. Remember, each word has a root idea. Okay. In the first selection, or first box, we have the nominative and vocative. Now let me ask you, why have I put them together? Anybody know Very good. Normally, wherever you see the nominative or the vocative, they're going to have the same ending on the word. Now, how do I determine if it's nominative or vocative? We'll go back to the explanation I gave you. What is the nominative case?
Designation.
It's the naming case. Yeah, the case of designation. The naming case, the nominative. So, the vocative is the case of address, special address. So you can figure out from the context which one is used instead of looking at the case endings. Over here, we've got what it means. Nominative is the case of designation, or I like to call it the naming case, specific naming case. The vocative is the case of address. Okay. Look at the second block. We're going to get all 8 of these, you see. In the second selection, you have the genitive and ablative, and looking at the ending of the word, they may have the same letters. The endings may be the same. The genitive case is the case of definition. It defines what's being said by the subject. The ablative case is the case of separation, meaning we left Gwinnett Hall and went to Winder. You see the case of separation, something that separates, is the ablative case. So the genitive and the ablative, you watch those two together. Number 3, or the third box, you have the dative, locative, and instrumental. Those 3 you'll find have the same endings. Dative, locative, and instrumental. The dative case is the case of interest. The case of interest. Now, don't matter if you don't understand all these, just write them down and notice the words that I've used. They'll help you later on. The dative is the case of interest. The locative is the case of position. The case of position. And the instrumental is the case of means, M-E-A-N-S, means. So that's 7 cases. The last case, the 4th block, is the accusative. And the accusative case is the case of limitation. Now someone tell me, what